An understanding of the image of God is necessary for the way that we relate to other people, because if we don't understand ourselves as created in the image of God and those around us who are human beings created in the image of God, then what we're going to end up with is an understanding of human meaning and purpose simply being bound up in the exercise of power. And so what inevitably happens is Baal worship. I mean, the reason that the peoples around Israel were drawn toward these fertility gods and toward Baal is because there was an exercise of power. These were gods who could give you what you wanted in terms of crops and fertility and so forth, and they're gods that you were scared of because they could overpower you. That's not the gospel that we've received. We've received a very different sort of God, a God who is sovereign over the creation, a God who loves us, and a God who in Jesus Christ is present with us. And so if we're imaging that God, then that means that we don't have something to prove by running over other people or comparing ourselves in one direction or the other over other people. But instead we have a long-term view of what our calling is, which means I can love you and serve you right now because I recognize a picture of God there, in the same way that often I'll be somewhere away from my family and I want to look at pictures of my wife, of my kids. We see God present in the people who are around us. And because we understand and know this time that I'm living in right now is a little internship for the life that I have to come.
It's easy for people in our world to think that power is inherently bad or suspect, but we know as Christians that we worship a God who is omnipower. He is omnipotent. So we believe in the goodness of power. Power is what raised Christ from the dead. Power is what God will have, to judge the living and the dead. We believe in the goodness of power. And so God has given to us as his image bearers to wield some of this power, to be fruitful and multiply and to have dominion and to exercise authority over creation. And yet, if we just have our eyes open, we're aware that power in this fallen world comes with many inherent dangers, which is why we need to have a robust understanding of the Imago Dei, that people are not valuable only because they're useful to us. In fact, they're not valuable because they're useful to us. They're not valuable because we think they make a contribution or because society has deemed them to be worthy of value. Even the great Dr. Seuss taught us that a person's a person no matter how small. So it isn't your size, it isn't your education level, it isn't your level of dependency or independency, it isn't your political acumen or influence that gives you worth. You, as a human being, are a person made in the image of God. Whether you are inside the womb or you are breathing your last or you have severe cognitive impairments, you are created in the image of God, which means we all have worth, value, dignity, deserving of respect.
The doctrine of the image of God, that everyone's made in the image of God, has a radical effect on our social relationships. There is no doubt, even in America, even though there's plenty of other countries in which the society is more stratified, and there's a much bigger class distinction between people of honor and people of lower status and so on. Americans always been seen as something of a classless society, which isn't totally true. Nevertheless, there is no doubt we actually, for example, value professionals. People have a lot of expertise. They're making money. In a way, we don't value blue-collar people or people that are easily replaceable or people who just do the housework or that sort of thing. That is absolutely wrong, theologically. There is no better place to learn about this than in Book 3 of Calvin's Institutes, but you can also find it in his little golden book of the Christian life, where he says, if you look at another human being and you say, this person doesn't deserve my good regard, this person is low and mean, does not deserve respect. And then he says, what does the Lord deserve? And he says, because you're looking at the Lord. He actually says, you're looking at the image of God. And therefore, he says, in terms of the image of God, he deserves all that respect, no matter what in himself, what his record is or what he's done, or that doesn't matter. He says, you regard him on the basis of the image of God. That's an amazing statement, because every single human being reflects the being of God in some way.